You ever have a day where you walk into work thinking you know exactly how it's going to go, and by the time the sun sets, your whole life's flipped upside down? That's how it happened for me. I'm talking about a day I'll never forget. The day the man who fired me discovered he didn't even own the place anymore. Because I did. Yeah, that happened. But if you think it started with a big win, you've never been the underdog before. See, I grew up knowing I'd have to work twice as hard just to get half as far. You know what I mean? My folks raised me on hard work and thick skin, so by the time I landed at Eastbrook Financial, I already knew not everyone was going to be rooting for me. But I had dreams. Walked in there 5 years ago with a used suit and a heart full of hope, thinking maybe, just maybe, I could change the game. But that office, it had its own rules. The boss, Gordon Eastbrook, was old money, silver-haired, the kind of guy who ran the place like it was his private country club. I could feel it every time he looked at me. That silent question like, "How'd you get here?" Never had to say it out loud. It was in the way he ignored my ideas in meetings, or handed off the big clients to his golfing buddies. But I didn't quit. I pushed harder, took the toughest projects, stayed late when everyone else was halfway through happy hour. I thought if I kept grinding, things would change. But the higher I climbed, the heavier the weight got. Didn't matter how many new clients I brought in or how perfect my reports were, Gordon would still find a way to cut me down. One day, he storms up to my desk, face red, folder in hand, barking for me to get in his office. "This isn't good enough, Carter," he snaps, papers flying everywhere. "You should be grateful I even let you work here." I wanted to fire back, but instead I just nodded, swallowed my pride, and got back to work. Because that's what you do when you need that paycheck. That night, though, something cracked inside me. After years of biting my tongue, I started to wonder, why was I still letting this man tell me what I was worth? I finished my work, walked back in his office, and said, "Sir, I've done more for this company than anyone here. Why is it never enough?" He just smirked and said, "This isn't about you, Carter. This is business. You don't like it? There's the door." And just like that, he fired me, told me to pack up and get out. No drama, no second chances. You ever get kicked so hard you forget how to breathe? But as I boxed up my things, I remembered something I'd learned growing up. Sometimes losing is just the beginning of a better story. Because what Gordon didn't know was that I'd been working on my own plan. Quietly, over the past year, I'd been building a small tech company, buying up shares of Eastbrook Financial through a holding firm. Never enough to get noticed, just enough to matter. Getting fired? That was the last puzzle piece I needed. By the next morning, after a few phone calls and a whole lot of signatures, I owned the controlling interest in the very company that had shown me the door. So I put on my sharpest suit, walked straight through those front doors, and made for the boardroom. Gordon was holding court like nothing had changed, laughing with his old guard, until he saw me standing in the doorway. He tried to have security throw me out, but I just dropped the documents on the table and said, "I called this meeting." You should have seen his face when he realized what was happening. Hands shaking, flipping through papers. He couldn't believe it. "This is my company," he shouted, voice breaking. I looked him dead in the eye. "Not anymore. And here's the thing, Gordon. This company's been running on fear and favoritism for too long. That ends now. From today, people get ahead because they earn it, not because of who they know or what they look like. He argued, threatened, tried to rally the other execs, but the board could see the writing on the wall. Gordon finally slumped in his chair, pulled out a resignation letter, looked older than I'd ever seen him, and just like that, he was gone. Turning things around wasn't easy. There were folks who wanted to keep things the way they were, like Richard the CFO, always throwing shade, stirring up doubts. But I wasn't backing down. I promoted people who'd been overlooked for years, folks like Lisa, who worked twice as hard for half the credit. We put real diversity programs in place, started mentoring the next generation, tore down the old boys club. Some people walked out, others stepped up. The company started to change, and so did the numbers. I'll never forget the day we rebranded, took down the old name, put up the new Catalyst Dynamics. We weren't just in the business of money anymore. We were in the business of opportunity. The energy on the floor was different, like everyone finally had a shot. I even started getting invited to speak about what we'd built, how it all turned around after one man's stubbornness finally met its match. Months later, out of nowhere, I got a letter from Gordon. Short, shaky handwriting. He wrote, "You were right. Power's a funny thing. I thought I had it, but turns out it was just an illusion. You made this place better than I ever could." I read it, put it in my desk, and moved on. Some folks never change. But me? I wasn't looking for his approval. I was too busy helping others find their own voice. The best part wasn't the money or the headlines. It was the little moments, like hearing two new hires in the break room talking about how they finally felt seen, finally had hope. That's the stuff that stays with you, you know? Years later, I handed the company over to a young black woman I'd mentored, watched her step into that office with the same fire I had. That's how you know you did something right, when the people after you get a real shot at greatness. So let me ask you, have you ever been pushed out, told you'd never make it, only to prove everyone wrong? Do you think it's possible to truly change a broken system, or does it just get new faces? I want to hear your story. Drop a comment. Let's talk about what justice really means and whether the underdog ever gets the last word.